On my second day, I focused on the Pest side of the River Danube, starting with the really splendid St. Stephen's Basilica. The building work for this started in 1867, but with multiple problems over the decades, was not completed until 1905. It started life being called a church, but in recognition of its size and grandeur, it was given the title Basilica in 1931 by the then Pope, and in 1993 it gained the title of Cathedral. It has a Greek cross-style floor plan with a really majestic central dome. The very ornate interior features about 50 different types of marble and elaborate decorations created by famous artists of the period. At 96 metres high, the dome is the same height as the Parliament building, which is said to symbolise the balance between church and state in Hungary. One curiosity is a special chapel where there's a shrine containing a preserved right hand said to be that of St. Stephen, the first king of Hungary. Visiting the dome requires climbing some 300 or so steps to reach its viewing platform. On the way up, the impressive structures of the outer and inner domes could be seen. The platform views included looking west over the city to St. Gelert's Hill, while further round the Buda Hills could be seen in the distance. Also looking over the river was the Royal Palace, standing proudly on Castle Hill, and a bit to its right was Matthias Church and the Hilton Hotel. St. Stephen's Square is actually the roof of a large underground car park. I then moved on to the State Opera House, dating from 1884 and built in a grand neo-Renaissance style. The interior, with its gold and red, can only be described as opulent. The Opera House stands on Andrassy Avenue, which was created in the late 19th century to link the inner part of the city with its city park. It is also the route for the city's first underground, and indeed the first built in Europe. Nearest the city centre, the street has many luxury boutiques, while towards the park there are residential palaces, theatres, universities and embassies. A grand avenue indeed. At the far end of the avenue is Heroes Square, a large public space used for special events. At the end of the square is the Millennium Monument, with its main column topped by the Archangel Gabriel. Around the base of the monument are a number of equestrian statues honouring the 7 chieftains of the Hungarian tribes who conquered the area now known as Hungary. Just behind Heroes Square is the city park. In summer, its pond is popular for boating in various forms, while in the winter it can freeze over and become a skating rink. There was a curious coincidence when I was filming a pedalo with police markings. The city park is also host to the Szechenyi Baths, built in 1913 on the site of one of Budapest's many thermal springs. The building, both outside and in, is more reminiscent of a palace than a bathhouse. The central entrance hall has galloping horses on the ceiling and a centaur fountain at ground level. There are 13 indoor pools, mainly medicinal ones, with temperatures ranging from 28 degrees to 40 degrees. The thermal waters are sourced from a depth of 1,246 metres and have an initial temperature of 76 degrees centigrade. There are 3 outdoor pools, with this one with its massaging jets of warm water being described as the adventure pool. The main central pool is intended for serious swimming, and behind it is a building housing a cafe and many rooms for private massage treatments. In the main pool, the lifeguards blew a whistle if anyone misbehaved or was not wearing a swimming cap. The third pool, with the whirlpool feature, has the hottest water at a temperature of 38 degrees. Having enjoyed my refreshing swim, it was back out to the park again. On the far side of the large pond was Valdahunyad Castle and associated buildings, originally created for the Millennium celebrations. Millennium here refers to the year 1896, which marked 1,000 years of Hungarian history. The buildings were originally intended to be only temporary and were made of wood and cardboard, but proved to be so popular that they were subsequently rebuilt in more durable materials. Having walked up the length of Andrassy Avenue, I decided to take the M1 metro back down to the city centre. I then headed down towards the Danube, passing through Voromarty Square, where there is a statue to a 19th century poet of that name. Reaching the Danube, I boarded one of the municipal ferries heading upstream. The first bridge we passed under was the Chain Bridge, also known as the Széchenyi Bridge. It was designed by an Englishman and built by a Scotsman. It was difficult to see some of the buildings fully because of the many moored barges. Soon the magnificent Parliament building came into view. The design of the Parliament building was said to have been inspired by the Houses of Parliament in London. It took 17 years to build, being completed in 1903. Landing stages are on the alternate sides of the river, and at this point there was a downstream ferry heading across the river to berth at the Parliament landing stage that we had just vacated. There are many impressive statistics for the building. When built, it was the largest Parliament building in the world, and is still the largest building in Hungary. No building in Pest is allowed to be higher than its 96 metres, although, as already noted, St. Stephen's Basilica matches it. It has 20 kilometres of staircase and a total of 691 rooms. Budapest has many modes of transport with its buses, trolleybuses, tramcars, 4 underground lines, plus boats large and small on the river. But this amphibious bus was certainly a bit different. That evening my plan had been to go out after dinner for some shots of floodlit buildings, but I was in for a surprise. The underground trains were packed with people going into the centre, all in very high spirits. I soon figured out it was because their national football side had drawn 3-3 against the mighty Portugal team in the World Cup. The good people of Budapest seemed to be treating it as if they'd won the World Cup. Such was the fervour of their celebrations. In the city centre, St. Stephen's Square was packed, and the rickshaw cyclists were going nowhere. With the growing crowds, the police had decided to close off many of the roads for safety. Although it was all good-natured high spirits, I decided that with ever more people gathering, it would be sensible to make a strategic retreat back to my hotel. I did pause though by the Great Synagogue, which is the largest of Europe. Like many of Budapest's buildings, it had been damaged heavily in the war, but had been fully restored during the 1990s.